Welcome back to Adventure Pete. Glad to see you here. So, today we're talking about putting a GPS in an older boat. So, if this is your first time here, make sure you like the video, comment, tell us what you think, tell us what you want to hear about, and subscribe. We got a lot of great content coming in, a lot of great content already on the channel, so be sure to check it out. So, today we have our Garmin 43CV installed on our older 1989 Four Winds Sundowner boat. We enjoy having one to make sure it tracks where we are and where we're going throughout the water. This one is a really neat model. It's pretty much the lower affordable model to have a full marine time map system while you travel. It actually overlays your boat and your tracking as you go through the water. So it's very nice and convenient. And they also sell covers. So I can snap this cover on when it's in storage, or if we're on the water for the day and nothing else I have to do, it comes off quickly, easily, just like that. And I can take this and put away in the house for storage for the winter, things like that. And the connections have just simple covers that you snap right on in place. So we're going to talk about what it takes to install one on these older boats. So stay tuned. First thing they want you to do is install the transducer. So that is this fancy thing right here. They call that the transducer. This is what sends a sonar signal down to register your depth and water temperatures and all the other fun stuff like that in the water. So the instructions will give you a template. It'll tell you to stick it on there and draw the pattern, things like that. But if you actually read further down in the instructions, it'll say once you mount it, you need to test it. Once you get up on a plane, if you lose your depth and it just goes in and out, you need to take it and then remount it lower and keep doing so until you finally get it to where it actually works. And they have you start a long ways up, and I didn't want to do that and keep re-drilling holes in a nice fiberglass boat. So what we did is we actually started where you need it to be. So the idea is at the very bottom of the boat, which is where this is, that is where the bottom of the transducer needs to be. So this whole bottom piece needs to be covered by water all the time. So when you think about it and you're up on plane, the water doesn't actually curl back up underneath the backside of the boat that much. It actually stays and kind of keeps pretty flat. So you got to keep it right at the bottom edge of that to go across right there. Where you mount it also varies and depends on where you want to go. You do not want to get too far in front of the motor because that will cause cavitation. That will actually cause adverse effects on how the boat actually drives and performs, especially with propeller thrust and things like that. Sometimes you will get the actual speedo sensor mounted just over here or over here, things like that. I actually like mounting straight on the step, so it actually will direct the water flow the best. If you go too far out, you may also get it where when you're on plane, you may be actually out of the water, so it depends on where you put it. So anywhere's in here worked for us, but I figured let's put it right on the step so it's nice and clean. And then with that bunk right there, if we accidentally overshoot it for some reason, we're not actually going to break it off. So that's where we end up going with that. I could have put it on the other side of the boat, because that step, that inner one, is completely open, but I chose to stay on this side because I know exactly where the speedometer wire, actually this is just the actual just air hose tube style, goes into the back of the boat. So when I go from the inside, I know exactly where it comes out. I'm not guessing on the other side where I'm punching a hole into in case it's in something important. So I chose to keep it on this side. And the speedometer wires is going to be my marker, so I know where it comes in on the back side as well. I could have taken this mount off and just drilled the hole bigger and fought with that a little bit, but I just want to drill a straight hole, keep it the same. I made a little cover to help secure it in place. You can just fill it with silicone and it will be good to go, but I just try to make it a little bit nicer. So that's what I did on the back side. Simply screwed it in there, covered it with silicone, filled the hole with silicone, covered the screw heads, everything like that, to make sure it's sealed as best as possible, because this is underwater. You don't want to do anything to allow water to seep in and cause the back wood to rot. And I actually use silicone up the actual cable itself. You could just use cable clamps like this, but that means you're putting another hole into the fiberglass, which means you have to seal it. So if I just use silicone just to kind of glue the actual cable to the back of the boat, then I'm actually not putting in more holes in the back of the boat than I need to. So then I just have the single hole that goes through here. So I started with a small 1/8 inch hole, drilled it straight through the back, and looked from the back side to see where it was coming through to make sure I didn't hit anything important. And then I stepped up to a bigger hole, and I'm having to go to a 1/2-inch hole size to fit the connector plug through, because they send the transducer fully wired with a connector end that goes in the backer plate that holds the mount. So once you feed that through there, you'll end up running the cable down through the inside, and I'll show you how I did that. So right back there, you can see where the 2 actual cables and hoses come through that back wall there. You can kind of see it's coming there. That is from the actual back side of the engine bay, right down there. The right side one is the rubber hose for the speedometer that goes through the back wall. And on the left side, I actually took that cable and covered it in convoluted tubing just to keep abrasion resistance when I run the cable, because honestly it's an expensive cable, and why not just cover it to make it safe as it runs up the side. So it came in there, then I ran it off to the left and down through the side of the boat, which if you look at one of these old 4-winds, this pocket right there is a straight shot pocket back to the back side there. So it comes up, runs down that way and along here, and it's actually up underneath and all this cabling up here. You can see that's where all the cabling is run across the top there. That's where all the other cabling is run. So I ran it down that all the way up and across. And if you actually follow inside there, that ends up in the back side of the gauge cluster, where I can access it from the inside of a 4-winds is from the back side, and you can see that where all the fuses are up front. So from the inside of a 4-winds that has this cover that pops down, all boats are different, but they should always have some kind of access to the back side of the gauge cluster, and it's right here. So mine, you can see there is the fuse center. So I have all my fuses and power posts right there, so I can easily attach my power and ground right to this box here. That feeds right up to the mount, and then from the left side is actually where that cable comes. You can see through that pocket. That pocket up there is actually where it comes in from behind down the right side of the boat. So it comes up in there, and then that's where I went way up top to where I mounted the actual mount itself for the GPS. So all wires will come back into this cavity where I just tied up the excess. And it obviously is a rat's nest back there because that's the way it's been from the factory and from other owners. So that's just how it is, but you can see that's where you find it. So for the mount itself, it can be done in a couple different places in a couple different ways. I chose to have mine on the left side of the steering wheel, so that way when I'm standing in the center of the boat, if I'm just standing up running the steering wheel, I have it right in front of me. It could have been off to the right side, but then I would have to lean over sometimes or be in the seat to always see it. So standing up in the center helps me see it. And if I have a passenger, they can actually keep track of the GPS as well as we're driving down the waterways. So I chose to have it right here. Plenty of different places. Some have to have it lower. Some took it way off to the bottom right side. Any place is an option. But for mine, this is the standard factory mount that they give. And with that wouldn't go straight down into this top. It could, but this GPS would have been in this glass up here, and I didn't want to have that. So I actually took a piece of angle aluminum, because aluminum doesn't rust, and just mounted the base to that, and then mounted that to the actual top itself. There's plenty of different options out there, different mounts, different types, different styles out there. There's RAM mounts that you can make as adapters. I just had this extra laying around, so I made it work, and that's how I attached it. As far as the cables, I actually just drilled a hole in the dash and ran them straight down into that cavity. It's quick and easy to get to. This comes off really simply with just one snap right there. The cables actually connect and snap in and lock into place on the mount itself. They are keyed. One is for power and ground, one is for the transducer, so they cannot be put in backwards, because on the back side of the monitor they have actual key nubs, so they cannot be put in the wrong way. So it's very cool. It's easy to snap in and out. And they also have these covers, so during storage time when we don't have the boat in the water, I can put these on there to keep moisture out, keep the connections good, so everything stays long term. So when I'm ready to use this unit for the day, I just simply put the bottom in, push it forward, snaps into place, and now I'm ready to go. I just simply turn the power on right there, and it pulls up on my screen. It remembers all my previous tracks, all my previous maps and everything I had on there, so I don't have to refresh it. So anything I've had from past years is already memorized in there, so I can look at old boat paths, I can look at old pinpoints and things like that I've located, places I want to go, places I want to be. That's all right there on it, so it actually works out very nice. And then the snap cover that you can buy as an add-on with it. So that's the nice thing I like about the Garmin's, is you can get this extra add-on stuff. Snaps on there so it keeps the sun off it. If I'm not using it for the day, I'm just leaving it for the night. Just like that. So for me, it works out very well. It's a convenient spot, and it was simple, and it just works. I had this thing for a couple of years, and I have no complaints about it. It's been a very nice unit to have. So that was how we installed our Garmin 43CV GPS fish finder system in our 1989 Four Winds 205 Sundowner. This will work in a lot of different boat platforms. Its ideas are still similar in how they do it, but this is how we did it in ours. So the Garmin unit's been great for us. We've had it for a few years and we really have no problems with it. So I'll make sure to leave a link in the description in case you want one for yourself. And hopefully you like the video. Comment, tell us what you think, tell us what else you want to hear about, and subscribe. We got a lot of great content coming, a lot of great content on the channel itself, so be sure to check it out. And remember, have a great adventure.